Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you're listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi.
Hi.
There's been so much baseball happenings since I talked to you last.
Yes, it's been quite a while. Well, has it been quite a while? It seems like, we started in the middle of a series.
And it's less than a week, and we're getting back to the middle of a series, but you know how it goes.
Yeah, it just feels like we have a lot to cover. So before we do that, there's some comments in the comments corner that I want to address. Do you have anything that you want to address before we get into it?
Yeah, so Jordy Higa let us know that we had the story last week on the tour guides and them unionizing and trying to come to an agreement on basically wages and things like that. They let me know that it's not IATSE for the union, it's pronounced IATSE. So just for anybody who's looking up all that stuff, it's the union is mostly for theatrical stage employees, but also this is what our like gaffers, lighting people, sound crew, but this is also what the tour guides have chosen to unionize with. So thought that was kind of cool.
Appreciate that. I also liked El Cerebro's reference, like that the Dodgers are like not necessarily a broken record, but one of those. I used to do this with CDs. Like sometimes there would be like an issue with a CD and it would skip in certain parts. It would never play cleanly. And I think that's absolutely right. What's going on with the Dodgers right now? It's like, I don't know if you're going to get a completely clean game. Hershiser has said this many times. Not all the components are working on the team. So you're hoping that the majority of the components work and it'll get you through for that game. So I did like El Cerebro's, I get maybe a metaphor or simile there to what's going on with the Dodgers.
Yeah, and David wants a taco. We apparently look at reading the same way, so a book is a book is a book. So he was thankful that we validated his reading options. So
That's right. And I appreciate David Wants a Taco backing me up on the love for short stories, especially with Ernest Hemingway and Albert Camus' The Stranger. I wish I had more recommendations for you book wise, David, but for right now, I like I said, I read a lot of biographies. I'm in the middle of a Francis Ford Coppola biography. So a lot of the biographies I like to read are of filmmakers. So I'll let you know once I finish it.
So there is a new book that just came out. It's baseball related. It came out Tuesday, yesterday. Geez, I don't even know what day we're on. So we're recording Wednesday, but as of Tuesday, September 9th, a new book just came out by Jane Leavy, and it's called Make Me Commissioner. I Know What's Wrong with Baseball and How to Fix It. Jeff Passan actually just retweeted this. So if you're interested in seeing a perspective on maybe how someone else might approach the commissioner's chair, this book just came out, so you can check it out.
Have you started it yet?
No, it literally just got here yesterday while I was at the game. So I got home and then it was like, oh my gosh, I have to start my show notes. So unfortunately, no. But I maybe having some free time this weekend. So we'll see if I can get to it.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the Baseball Shangri-La Book Club and our recommendations. Any other comments you want to address, Amie?
I'm trying to think. I feel like we got them all over, but my head is a little all over the place. Obviously, we did get some comments around some of the happenings in baseball this weekend. Some people were in their feels and just reached out to let me know that they were bummed about how things turned out. But overall, like everybody seemed to be taking it in stride. So
It's so funny that you say feels because I don't know if you saw Mookie Betts's post game interview yesterday. He used a phrase that I really liked, and I want to steal and adapt for my own because they were clearly asking him, okay, does this have things changed for you guys? Is this the beginning of you guys getting on a run? How are you feeling? And then Mookie said, we got to take the feel out of this and take
Mhm.
it by day. So, for you guys that are listening, you guys watching, when it comes to watching the Dodgers, especially between now and the end of the season, let's take the feels out of it, right? Let's just watch the games and because I know the reactions, especially over the weekend, were very wide ranging.
Mhm,
So
they were. I did get. It looks like one of our listeners, Ed Gill. I think they were at the game on Saturday. So, just even getting to see all of that for as long as they did, kind of cool. Roland reached out, and just he was one of the ones let us know that he was just kind of processing the game. So I'm sure you heard from other people too. But it was just, it was just I don't know. There's a lot. We're going to get to so much baseball in this episode.
I did hear, so I'm going to save those reactions for when we get to that portion. But why don't we start with updates, Amy?
All right, we can start with update. No, I'm just kidding. So we have a lot of people that are rehabbing right now. So on Tuesday of last week, Kyle Hurt, Tommy Edman, they went to Oklahoma City to rehab. Alex Vesia joined them on Wednesday, Max Muncy on Thursday. So we're slowly starting to see those guys coming back over the subsequent series. Dalton Rushing is heading there on a rehab assignment. I know I'm getting ahead of myself as to why is he on a rehab assignment. And then Brock Stewart is supposed to throw this Friday, and then he'll be going out on a rehab assignment as well. We did see a lot of movement. So the Dodgers selected the contract of Ben Rortvedt. We'll get to that later. And in doing so, the corresponding moves were they optioned Alex Freeland back to Oklahoma City. They DFA'd pitcher Alexis Diaz, and then the Braves claimed him off of waivers. And then on Saturday, we saw the Dodgers select the contract of Chucky Robinson. We didn't actually get to see him play, if I'm not mistaken. And in the subsequent move, they DFA'd pitcher Matt Sauer. At that point, Dalton Rushing went on the 10-day IL, and then for that right shin contusion that we'll get into. As of Monday, Chucky Robinson, his brief stint up here, went right back down. He was optioned back to Oklahoma City. They activated Max Muncy on Monday, so we got to see him. Alex Vesia was activated on Tuesday after being on the 15-day IL for his oblique strain, and then Ben Kasparius was optioned back to Oklahoma City for that. And then as of Wednesday, the day that we're recording, Tommy Edman was just activated off of the 10-day IL, and Justin Dean was optioned back down to Oklahoma City. So those are the big moves. There's other stuff that's gone on that will come up since we're covering the Pirates series, the Orioles series, and then part of the Rockies series.
All right. Anything else?
I think the rest of the stuff, like kind of the devils in the details for like the Ben Rortvedt and things like that, that's all going to come up as we go over the games. Unless you have anything else you want to make mention of.
What was the corresponding move for Tommy Edman again?
Justin Dean. He was
Justin Dean,
optioned
that's
back to Oklahoma City.
There we go. All right. Well, let's get into some baseball here. And a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amy, so when we were last with you guys, it was the middle of the Pirata series. It was game 2. That game had not ended. The Dodgers ended up getting swept by the Piratas. And I know that lately this show has been viewed as being toxic, that we are just way too, well, not we, I'm way too negative. Amy, I have to tell you, for that Pirata series, look,
I was worried about your mental health.
and yeah, I was honestly, I'm like I said, I am completely unbothered by the Dodgers' performance this year. But in terms from an analytical perspective, uh, I can understand the Dodgers struggling to score runs against Paul Skeens. Like that to me, when you look at that series, you look at those matchups, you think, okay, the Dodgers will win 2 out of 3 because I mean, even though the Piratas are in last place, Paul Skeens is a really good pitcher. He can find a way, especially the way this offense has been performing. He can maybe find a way to shut down the team and all you need is maybe 1 or 2 runs and you could win that game. But I did not see the Dodgers losing the first 2 games of the series against a beat out that team that is last in Major League Baseball when it comes to scoring runs. So again, I don't want to sit here and beat a dead horse, but
Poor horse.
it's really hard for me to find anything positive in that series. Only, and like I said, I wasn't surprised by the performance because that's who this team is. But Blake Snell, who was a victim of lack of run support, really got hit hard in that 5th inning. Now, I don't know if maybe Blake Snell was, he's running out of gas at that point, or maybe the pressure of having to be perfect because the offense is struggling so much finally gets to you when you're trying to make the perfect pitch every single time. I don't know if that is sustainable, but Amie, I don't scratch my head. It's just I don't have an explanation as to why this Dodger team struggled as much as they did. And I know Dave Vassay ended up saying if you look at the Dodgers record in Pittsburgh the last few years, they actually are under 500 playing in Pittsburgh the last few years. So I don't know if it's just something about playing in Pittsburgh. The Dodgers just don't respond considering it's a different team every year. But what were your thoughts on that series?
So later in one of the other series, Oral commented on this, but it kind of went back towards everything we're going to cover. And when he was talking on Sportsnet LA, he was saying that with the injuries and the holes in the roster and the Dodgers just not being at full strength, they do have to slug for now. So as much as we want to see some of that small ball on the field, because our lineup can't carry everybody that way, you are going to need to rely more on the long ball. And so kind of with that being said, like there were still some things that I thought kind of shown in that series. We saw Rortvedt make his debut because Will Smith went down. So the day that we were recording last week, you had let me know, I hadn't seen the game yet, but that Will Smith was removed from the game because he had gotten hit on, I think it was like a foul tip or something like that. But one of the things, I don't know if maybe it's because I keep score so I can make my little notes. So whereas maybe they didn't win the game, I still have little places to put like little positive things that I catch. So even some of the things where calls just went their way, like Will Smith in that game on Tuesday, they missed a call. It was called a ball. He actually foul tipped it, but the umpire didn't see it. And because you can't challenge that call, he ended up hitting a single on it and a run came in. So he scored Freddie. Obviously, we saw the manager on the Pirates get really upset about it, but it's one of those things. We don't have a review system for that yet. But there were just certain things that kind of that weren't so great. Like Wednesday, they left the bases loaded twice in the 2nd and 3rd inning. Not so hot. But then you saw like some of the other stuff where they were actually kind of coming alive. So I don't know. I feel like some of the stuff we just have to look for it. Like in the Wednesday game, Mookie Betts made an amazing leaping catch in the bottom of the 8th. Tim Neverett did say on the broadcast, so kind of to your point about when they play in Pittsburgh, that he was talking to McCutchen before the game on Thursday, and Andrew was saying that the ball isn't carrying there because Tim Neverett noticed that they were playing in a lot, and he's just saying for whatever reason, the ball isn't carrying. So a lot of those hits, like earlier in the series, like when Shohei's like, crushing the ball, it should have gone out. But they don't know why. For whatever reason, it's either the baseballs, it's something going on in the stadium, but nothing's carrying. So that could also lend itself to maybe some of the stuff that should have gone out or may have gone out in the past just isn't working there right now. Wisdom.
Yeah, I just bless your heart. Your positivity just carries the day. It's funny to me because seeing the Dodgers get swept by a last place team and hearing, oh, well, now they've hit rock bottom. And I'm just like, guys, how many times are we going to use that expression this year? Don't you think rock bottom was when they got swept for the season by the Angels?
But these teams are still going to play. What's the thing that you like to always say about Dontrell about them driving other teams?
The other team drives nice cars too.
Yeah, like these are still baseball players. Like they're still going to play well, and that's the thing I think that people forget is like we talked about it last week. People are going to play up to the Dodgers. That's not saying that the Dodgers are playing down. I just there are things, if you look for them, we're seeing them, they're starting to come out of it. It didn't really work out in their favor for the Pirates series. But we also saw them score quite a few more runs in that Tuesday series. They did lose, but it was 7-9. Like, so they're, you know, I can't, like, I don't want to talk to death the the negatives. Like,
Well, I don't want to talk to death the negatives either. My thing is just that I can't give
especially
you.
losing Will Smith, like that's a big hit. You already don't have Muncy in the lineup, so I think they felt it more in that series. And then you did see some of the pitchers just weren't able to go deeper. Like we're seeing some of the subsequent games, they're going sixth inning, seventh inning. In that series, you saw Kershaw going five, Emmett Sheehan went 4 and 2/3, and then we saw Blake Snell go five. So all in all, probably not their best series, but it's 3 games out of the whole. So you fast forward to the Orioles, and again a little bit more bad luck, but then we're also seeing some of the things turn around too. So I don't have too much more on the Pittsburgh series. It just kind of was what it was. But I mean, do you have anything else on that side?
No, because I do think it's fair, and I know I don't know that we talk about it enough in that Pittsburgh series in terms of the offensive struggles. When you do have guys like Michael Conforto and you do have guys like Alex Friedland in the lineup, and you did lose Will Smith for part of that series, and you had Dalton Rushing, who has had his moments, but overall, if you look at his numbers are not very efficient. I don't think that you can lose sight of the fact that you do have so many players in this lineup during that series that normally they're not your regulars, so you're not going to get the same level of productivity from those guys that you are from your regulars, the Max Muncies, the Tommy Edmonds. So I do think we do need to be realistic, because I know some people will send me they make the argument, even if they're not at full strength, Juan, this team should be have enough to beat a last place team like the Piratas. And I really don't have a comeback for that, but
Well, and the good news is you don't have to have a comeback for it. It's just baseball. Like
there we go. David wants a taco. You have
there,
been invoked.
yes, we the sirens have come for you. Don't worry, they are not behind your car. They are just going down the main thoroughfare outside of my studio. So, and that's where I think, like, to me, this is a drop in the bucket. Yes, it is, and without going down the same road, yes, we have seen this throughout the series or the season, and I have some thoughts on it, especially when we get to the next series, because that's where all the feels are going to come out. But at the end of the day, we are still seeing, their defense was getting a little bit better. There were some other things that, we're going to see carry over into the Baltimore series, like lots of wild pitches. I will say this though, Ben Rortvedt was doing a pretty good job stopping some of those, especially because he's coming up. You've got Will Smith down in the first game of Baltimore. We lose Dalton Rushing in such a surprising way. And then you've got Rortvedt basically stepping in, and then you see all of the comments across social media of like, is Austin Barnes' phone ringing right now?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I feel maybe at this point this is a good segue into Baltimore, since we don't really have much else to say on the Pirates front, other than I don't think we have to see them for the rest of the season. So
Yes, let's move on to Baltimore. But before we move on to Baltimore, I do just want to comment on if there's no better example, I think, of how you and I see the game differently. When you were sitting here complimenting Rovert blocking those wild pitches, I saw it in a completely
well,
different way.
I know you hate his stance.
The one knee trash, Amie. If he wasn't in that one knee position, I think he could have blocked even more wild pitches. And I get like sometimes. I mean, it's easy for me to say, right? Because Shohei's throwing like 100 miles per hour, and it's like, okay, Juan, realistically, you're going to move that fast to your side to try to block that pitch.
Well,
So I
and
do
that's
want to
where I
take that in.
wonder. I don't want to say like I am not saying that you're wrong about how you feel about that stance. I'm ambivalent about it because to me, I'm like, I don't like when I squat or I kneel down for a long period of time, like at my advanced age, like I feel that. The fact that these guys are doing it for a whole game, I'm like, you know what? You get in the position that makes you feel the most comfortable because you're getting up, down, you're moving all around. You know what? I know that some people have big arguments about like you have a wider range of movement if you don't just rest on that one knee, and I get it, like that makes sense. But again, sometimes they're back there for like 2 plus 3 hours. Like if this is what saves your body, saves the wear and tear on you, this might be the concession that the game has to make as it adjusts for some of these players. I don't know. So
But that's not the reason why they're doing it, Amy. The reason why it's being taught that way, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's this stance where the catcher puts one knee down and extends their
get on
leg.
top of the desk and show us all.
So what that is being taught is that specific stance is being taught in an effort to steal a strike. So, okay, I get that. If you're going to do that, I would be more comfortable with you using that stance when there's nobody on base. But when there is somebody on base, in particular in scoring position, I hate that they still use that stance specifically because of everything that you just described right now. It limits their mobility. And no matter how many times we had these examples, and especially once we got to Baltimore, I think they had like 6 wild pitches at that point in
I
that
know at one
series.
point there was at least 5 in a 2-day period, and that was when I was ticking them off and I was listening to the games because there was like 2, I think, the day before, 3 while I was doing it, and there might have been at least one more before the end of the game.
And at least half of those you have to say are on the pitcher. But
Yes.
then there's another half there that it's because I feel they're in that one knee trash position, and I just feel
Is that the official name of it?
former baseball players refer to it as one knee trash. So that's
I'm
the
just
reason why I take from it. But
It was noticeable that there were a lot this
yeah.
weekend, and as those were happening, I thought of you getting very frustrated with the knee stance.
Yeah, because they continue to and Jerry Hairston even said in the post game, he's just like, look, I know they're doing this because this is what they're being told to do. This is
Mhm.
what they're being told, taught how to do it. So whether as a catcher you disagree, look, don't for those of you old enough to remember who Tony Pena is, Tony Pena used to sit on his ass. I mean, Benito Santiago would throw runners out from his knees. Oh, okay, but I like. I'd have to go back and look to see if Tony Pena sat down on the ground while there were runners on base.
Hmm.
But it's
So homework for
yeah,
Juan.
homework for me. But
Well,
let's
and
talk about this Orioles series.
I will say this in Ben Rortvet's defense, like when we went into that Friday game, it was supposed to be Tyler Glasnow pitching, and he got scratched with back tightness, and then because Shohei had skipped his start just because of the chest cold that he had, he actually stepped in to pitch that Friday. Now he found out that afternoon he was on a short leash coming off of illness, and that's not to say that they're not all professionals, but you've got Ben, who's a little bit newer to the team. You've got Shohei that's coming in at the last minute. To me, this is just one of those magical things about baseball and just the prep that they all put in, that like they're gonna go in and like they make it work. Even with that little time, like adjusting, because that Ben probably prepared for all of Glasnow stuff, and now he's got to switch gears into Shohei. And just I don't know. This is one of the wonders that I love about the game.
Yeah, I mean, you got to tip your hat to him because with the pitching performances that you saw, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I mean, for a new guy coming into the team and not really having that much time, if any, to get acclimated with these pitchers, he seems to be a very quick learner.
He caught for Snell when he came in the bottom of the 8th on Thursday. He caught for Shohei Friday. That Yoshi game that we're gonna get to on Saturday. Then he caught for Kirsch. Like just the dream scenario of like, oh my gosh, like we talk about Dalton Rushing coming up, and this is like what his career is right now. But like this kid getting called up after coming over at the trade deadline, like just like how cool is that? I know it's his job, but like also you got to step back and be like, how cool is that?
Yeah, I mean, look, Shohei, I thought the unicorn looked good on Friday. You had a lot of the same thing that happened in Pittsburgh happen in that first game on Friday. The offense was just missing in action, and there's really nothing new that I can add to the fact that why this offense is struggling as much as they're struggling.
Oh, Freddie Freeman hit a home run.
That I mean, it wasn't enough.
I know.
It wasn't enough.
That was a close game. That was one of those ones that kind of broke your heart at the walk off at the end, just because they did come back to tie it, and then the ninth inning came and bit us. But
Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. Like that was a game where the Orioles lost their starter early in the game. It was
mhm.
basically turned into a bullpen game for the Orioles, and the Dodgers just couldn't capitalize. And it's to use El Cerebro's, it's another skip in the record there. Just they just cannot seem to be playing a clean game during that stretch. Uh,
I will call out because I feel again I think this comes more to the regionalization of it. Like other teams are going through this too. Like when I think it was the Orioles lost their pitcher on Sunday as well. So Tomoyuki Sugano, and we'll get to that, but he ended up getting injured midway through the game, and the broadcasters were like, and this is just another example of how the Baltimore pitchers have been snake bit. And these were their broadcasters, it wasn't ours. So it's like every team is going through this in their own way. Like Trey Turner, it just came out that he might have a hamstring strain. The last time this happened, he was out for 6 weeks. We don't really have that at the end of the season. So each team is struggling with this. So I think if we sometimes, if we need perspective, if we can step outside of our team and realize that we're at the end of the year. These guys are tired. Some of them are worn out. And then you just have happenstance that's happening. Like what happened to Dalton Rushing? Like who saw that coming? These guys foul balls off of their ankles, their feet, their shins all the time. When he hit the right inside of his shin and he went down and you saw him not get up, like he was down for a minute like that. It looked painful. And the fact that he couldn't even walk off of his own accord on the field was just like, whoa.
No, absolutely. So that Friday game when they lost it and Tanner Scott ended up taking the L. I know this quote happened earlier last week, and we really never got a chance to break it down. And that was when Tanner Scott got interviewed after the game and dropped the
I'm breaking it down.
baseball doesn't like me right now.
Yeah.
And that is like the sad. It is.
Did you have deja vu of saddest Christmas ever?
I did have a little bit of deja vu. I mean, I feel like there was such honesty in what he was saying, but at the same time, it was recognizing something that I feel is readily accepted in Major League Baseball, but not talked about enough. And I think it leads us to Saturday's game. And that is whether you want to call it the baseball gods or you want to talk about it as karma. There are certain things that happen in baseball that just are completely illogical, have no explanation to them. And so poor Tanner Scott probably is doing the same thing that he has done his whole career, and he is just not getting results. Like when he sits there and says, "Hey, I think I'm throwing too many strikes," to me, I'm like, so you think not throwing enough strikes is going to help you? Because for me, it seems like your
Oh,
stuff is not playing in the strike zone, and that's why you're getting hit hard. If you go out of the strike zone, people are just going to stop swinging. And
actually, there was a
yes,
heat map and an article about this. So
go ahead,
it
go ahead.
I believe it is on. I'd have to find it. I believe it's the Athletic. I think it was maybe Fabian Ardaya, but they were talking about how if you look at the heat map, it's just a little bit off where some of his stuff played a little bit more outside of the field. And it wasn't that no, you don't want to throw strikes. It's because it was so unwieldy. Yes, he may have walked people more, but people were swinging more because they didn't know what was going to be happening. And now, because his strike zone has shrunken so much, they know that like all I got to do is swing. Like I got a 50-50 shot. Where before it was like, it was that, I don't know, I might swing at it. Oh crap, it was a ball. And so because he's tightened it up so much, there is a negative after effect to it.
Yeah. So I know, so I got some comments and they're like, Juan, when you have a guy literally say baseball does not like me very much, and you keep putting him out there, like, is that not malpractice? And what I say to all you guys who are sending me those messages, what other option do they have right now? And I know this is going to come to the Saturday game, so let's do it. Let's
And
talk about the Saturday game.
and I think this precedes it. And I will say this and I had conversations. I know you have them more online. I tend to have random conversations with people around the stadium. So while I was at the stadium or talking to other people, like there was a lot of agreement of like, it doesn't matter what Dave Roberts does. He's going to be wrong in so many people's minds, because I think because people just want this weird accountability, because I'm not going to say accountability, but they just want this answer or this blame. If he doesn't put Tanner Scott in and he puts somebody else in, and let's say it's one of the younger guys, it's like, you should have put a veteran in. Why didn't you put a veteran? These young guys don't have enough experience to be in this high leverage situation. So then he's wrong for that. You put in Tanner Scott, who is struggling and trying to figure out where he's at. And it's either he needs to figure this out before the end of the season so that, if he does play in the postseason, it's done. But it's also, okay, you don't put him in and then now he's not, like, you can what if all of this stuff to death. And depending on how much leeway you give Dave Roberts, he's never going to be right. And I feel like in some cases that's kind of how people go. So I don't know. You and I are going to take probably very different stances on this as we go into it. But as we all know, Yamamoto was kind of cruising through 8 2/3 inning in that game on Saturday, and he was working towards a no-hitter. So
And he made the mistake. He made the mistake to Holiday. I really thought going into
did you
that
see as it was switching from the 8th inning to the 9th, Sportsnet LA didn't even cut to commercial. You saw him like run out. He was so amped. He like ran out of the dugout and went out there. And I was like, no commercials? We get to watch this? And it was just like,
I really thought he was going to do it, Amie. I thought he was going to throw it.
I think he thought he was going to do it too.
Once it got to 2 outs, I was even more confident. And then he just made that bad pitch to Holiday, and Holiday just, so there's two things that I want to address. So
and that game started off, just so everybody kind of has the setting of they're at Camden Yards. It was Cal Ripken Day, like as far as him breaking the record, and we'll get into that more later. But they had a whole ceremony preceding the game. So you've got Baltimore fans that are like amped because this is just such a special day for them. Now you've got Yamamoto on his way to throwing a no-hitter. So whichever side of baseball you fall on, this is like an energy-filled day. They want to win because they're, their guy, like you want to win because you want to win, but like they've got this special day going on. We want to win because we've got this no-hitter going and the season the way it's going. And so there's just, to me, there's like so much baseball energy surrounding this game already before we even get into that part in the 9th inning.
Well, that was the game that I thought for sure they were going to lose because it was Cal Ripken Day. I was like, that is baseball god stuff, where I was just like,
it really did end up being kind of baseball god stuff.
Yeah. So I thought he was great, and you just tip your hat for him. It really sucks that he was that close to it and losing the no-hitter. But what happened afterwards, Amie, that to me was the baseball god stuff. That to me was karma. And I immediately got 2 messages. One was from Amie. I don't know what her last name is, and it wasn't you, but she was just like, Juan, I didn't want to say it. And so Amie had told me she had been boycotting the Dodgers this year. So she hadn't been watching them, but her husband said, come in here, watch history, watch what Yamamoto's going to do. So she did. She caved and then she watched it. And then when Halliday hit the home run and then the rest of that inning happened, she said, Juan, this is karma. This is karma. Until they do what's right, they're going to keep facing this. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Then my tocayo Juan, a loyal listener to the show and the viewer, was just like, Juan, I feel the same way. I feel like it's karma. I mean, what happened there? That the baseball gods or whoever were just very angry and just dished it out there to the Dodgers. To me, Amy, there's no other explanation as to how. I know people.
No, none, no other.
Well, because people will
Okay.
sit there and say, okay, well, Blake Trinan's getting old. He's losing it. Before Blake Trinan went into that game, he was actually pitching pretty well. He was, he's been pitching well out of the bullpen. Said, okay, he initially, when he came out back from the injury, he had a couple rough outings, but after that, he started pitching well. How else do you explain him not being able to find the strike zone? Like that resulted because he walked hitters. He just could not execute his pitches. So it's like a guy who's pitching well, all of a sudden he just doesn't have it. Like, I know you're going to say it's baseball. It is baseball, but that's why I think it's baseball god stuff, where it's just like, wow. All right. And then you bring in Tanner Scott. And we know what Tanner Scott, what's been going on with Tanner Scott. Now, all the second guessers, all the Monday morning quarterbacks will say he should have brought in Jack Dreyer. Now, Jack Dreyer had been pitching really, really well. And Dave Roberts said afterwards he didn't want to use Dreyer in that many consecutive appearances. What I did find interesting is in Sunday's game, who did he bring in to close the game? He brought in Jack Dreyer. So it
But
just
he said consecutive instances, so
yeah.
he still had a game off where between those days.
But to me, again, it's one of those things where it's just like all they had to do was get one out. You brought in two pitchers and they couldn't get one out. That to me is baseball god stuff. That it was you had a 2-run lead and you end up losing that game on Cal Ripken Day. Sorry, the odds were just again. It's the same way I felt like there's no way the Yankees were going to win the World Series after Valenzuela died. There's just no way that the baseball gods were going to do the Dodgers that way.
See,
They just weren't.
I just don't I don't watch baseball that way. So like that's where it's you and I are different. Like to you it is clear as day that this is baseball gods. The sun is shining down on the Orioles and not on the Dodgers, and I just think it's circumstance. Like that's just how the game shook out, and then I go on my way. Like I don't. It's not that I don't care. It's like, all right, well that game's over, and I'm gonna take what I can from it. Like for me, like so that was the night that Hook was playing at Dodger Stadium.
Oh
So
yes.
so I ended up getting to the game early. Everybody like staked out their spots, and they put the Dodger game up on one of the Dodger Vision boards. So we were able to watch it. They didn't have the sound on. They just had music kind of cranked for all the kids and everybody that was like getting ready to come in. And then as you started to realize that, oh my gosh, this is a no-hitter, they cut the music and they put on Joe Davis. I think it was no, it was Steven Nelson and Oral. And I had already had my earbuds in because I was listening to my radio. So I've got Tim Neverett and Rick Monday. I've got I've got Steven and Oral up on the screen. So I'm listening to it kind of in two-tone. And everybody is just rapt watching this game kind of play out. And then the meltdown happened. Nobody could really believe it. And then it was like somebody had messaged and asked like, how was it at the stadium afterwards? And honestly, like people were bummed, but then we moved on. Like it was like, all right, well, the movie's going to start. It got delayed by 10, 15 minutes so that we could watch this. And then it was like, all right, we're here for this. And to me, that's kind of a metaphor of like how I watched the game. It was like, wow, that sucked. Like to lose that way, but like also, hey, I got to watch almost a no-hitter sitting on the outfield grass, like touching the grass that these guys like are on day in and day out. And then I got to watch Hook play out, before going home that night. So to me, while it never feels good to lose, it was also just like, all right, I'm focusing on the fact that look how close Yamamoto got. Like those 8 2/3 innings, all those people in the stadium, everybody who's watching on TV, one of our listeners, Ed, who's at the game, like all of these people are sharing a baseball moment. it didn't shake out the way that we wanted, but like how cool is that we all got to share that all the way up to that point. And that's kind of where you and I watch it differently, cuz I know you're probably cringing like, yeah, but we lost, Amie.
Amy, it would have changed a lot if they still would have won that game. It would have been like, oh, that sucks that Yamamoto, who came so close to getting that no hitter. But on top of it, to lose that game after the guy threw 8 2/3 of no hit ball, that just seemed like it was more insult to injury. But for me, what would have been even a bigger bummer if I was there watching that at Dodger Stadium was now I have to watch the Lost Boys. Then
I know
I
how
would have.
well, I know you would have died with the Lost Boys every time Julia Roberts came on screen with her Tinkerbell. I was just like, ugh. That was my, I cannot stand her as Tinkerbell.
The Lost Boys bother me more
Oh,
than
see, and
Julia
I love
Roberts
the
in
Lost
that
Boys.
movie.
Oh god, it was so good. Just like being out there on the field, like I had such a good night. Like it was, I
What
didn't
was
like
the
the
turnout
loss.
like? Did they have a good sized crowd for that?
So they've showed pictures before where the entire outfield is crammed.
Yeah.
I would say it was like 2/3 full, which was kind of nice because then you still had space between everybody. We weren't on top of each other. All the little kids who you thought would be watching the movie were all in right field throwing around a glow stick and playing like football, but they were having fun and having a blast. So, whatever. And there were all kinds of people there. There was like me, I went by myself. There were couples that went. There were people with kids. There were groups of people who all kind of went together. I saw one of the photographers that we always see on the field, Carrie, one of the people who works with John Suhu. So got to chat with her. She was taking pictures like right before. We didn't know that it wasn't going to be a no hitter, but like, she's trying to capture the moment, and I'm kind of jealous because I don't have my camera there. But it was just like, it was really cool. Like there have been some movies that they've shown that I don't know I would have necessarily gone out there for, but I think just for the atmosphere and the fun, like I'd probably go again. I thought it was a lot of fun.
The other thing that I want to talk about in that Yamamoto game, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, and this is where I would use the Mookie Betts. You guys got to take the feelings out.
And I have some points too, so go for it.
Is the criticism that came because Andy Pages didn't try to rob the home run from Jackson Holiday. That to me was ridiculous. Like, guys.
So this is where it gets me, right? And Dino Ebel did address this later, and Oral mentioned it on the broadcast on Sunday. So in this world where many people are barely accountable, and I'm not just talking about people in everyday life, like people in higher positions, whatever. We have a lot of people who are not accountable, yet many people hold this team to a higher standard than many people, again, that we see in this world. So I'm just curious why, like Andy Pages is held to a higher standard, like Dave Roberts, like these guys stand at their locker and they take it, even though they're trying their best. You know that there's no way Andy Pages wanted to blow that game. You saw all these guys coming together to kind of back Yamamoto up, and they would have done that normally in the game. But for all the defensive errors that we've seen in the past couple of weeks, like that team, they tried their hardest not to let them down. So like this is where I don't understand. Like I'm over here living in my like baseball bubble. I'm just trying to survive the year. Like life is hard. Like this is our refuge. Like why are we knocking these guys down? I don't understand it. And then for Oral to come in and say, like Dino Ebel said, it was a 0% catch probability. So like he couldn't have caught it. If he had jumped, like this is where it's like that what if game that I hate. There's fencing up there. Like what if he had jumped and he come down and he'd hurt himself? Or what if he jumped and he didn't catch it? Then he's still going to get grief. And instead, because it was so high, he didn't catch it, but now everybody's upset that he didn't make this magical play. And that's kind of where Oral came in, and he was like, this is where we all get emotional and we want him to be Superman or Spider-Man, and like that's not reality.
So I had the understanding, so this is not correct then. I had the understanding that Dino had approached Pages about at least making an effort on the ball. So that's not true then.
He said, so they had a conversation, and like he said he could have made an effort, like in a no-hitter situation you can, but it didn't change the fact that there was a 0% chance
Right. Yeah.
of catch probability. And that's where like Oral comes in, and I already had a note for this. So then when Oral said it, I was like, oh, we're on the same page. But like, do you want him to get injured trying to do this when there's a 0% chance that he could catch it? Is there a 0.0000001% chance maybe he does? That's what people are dreaming about and wanting to see, but that's not the reality of it. And that's, I think, where Oral's comment about like, this is where emotions come in and everybody wants him to be Spider-Man in those rare situations where you see somebody kind of like parkour up the wall and catch it, but that's not reality.
You know, honestly, I think most Dodger fans, if Baez would have ended up getting hurt on that, I think they would have been okay with it because they're like, he was trying to save a no hitter.
And I call
But
BS on that. Like, not on them. Like, you could feel however you want to feel. I don't want him getting hurt on that. Because to me, while a no hitter is nice and those are awesome, to me it comes down to everybody's griping about how the season goes and we want to get to the postseason. It's like you're also playing for the name on the front. Is a no hitter nice? Yeah, I don't want to see Pajes get injured for a no hitter that in the grand scheme isn't going to have any bearing on the World Series or their road there. So to me, no, I don't want him jumping for it.
And to be clear, I don't think that was
if there was a catch probability, then yes, go for it.
But and to be clear, I don't believe that ball was catchable. So I have no issue with him trying to rob. I just found it
well, thank
interesting.
God. Juan doesn't. No, I'm just kidding.
I just found it interesting that I found later on that people were complaining about that, where I was just like, wow, I'm the Prince of Darkness. And even I'm like, gosh, you guys really hate everything.
Yeah, there was so much hate out there for Pajes, for the pitchers. And it was like, guys, and I don't even think he deserves the hate, but Jackson Holiday is the one who hit the home run. Like, he ruined it. He spoiled the no-hitter. Like, but that's his job.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, Yamamoto made a bad pitch, so you just tip your hat to Jackson Holiday for hitting it. And so I don't blame Jackson Holiday. I don't blame anyone. It just happens, Yeah, I mean, you went that far. There's a reason why there's not that many of these. They're really hard to get.
And there hasn't been one supposedly this year at all.
Yeah. So for me,
the Dodgers have been in a situation to be in almost 3 in the last couple days.
Exactly. That's why it's like no hitter mania going on right now. I just, for me, what makes it worse was that they lost that game. They lost that game, and I think it was just compiled with their performance in Pittsburgh. They're facing a last place team, and now, as a result of losing that game, they've lost another series. They have a losing record on the road, and the way things are lining up in the postseason, they're going to have to go on the road in order to get to the World Series.
Well, so, and this is where, like, to me, it's like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Like, we can all want something to happen, but like it's going to play out the way it's going to. We've seen years where they got the bye and then they played horribly getting in. We saw years where they didn't get the bye and they played horribly that way. And then they, last year they got it and they did great. So like, it's just whatever happens in that time, kind of like what Mookie said, like you just take it one game at a time and like they just gotta, however,
take the feeling out of it.
Yeah. And if you want to have feelings, that's fine. But just know that you might be setting yourself up for some disappointment. Saturday morning, we had our Sabre Women in Baseball Committee Diamond Stories, and Cecilia Tan came in to talk to us. And one of the things she was talking about just in her career of being around baseball was she had this reminder that like, you can't script baseball. Like just when you think something's going to happen, something else is like this is why people love it, is because you can't buy a World Series. You can't, like, I could write this whole story out and like Yamamoto is going to have this no hitter and it's going to be beautiful on Cal Ripken Day and it's so close to the end of the year when they've had all these struggles, and then that's not what happened. But like it is a reminder to us that not only is it just baseball, but it's, you can't script this stuff. And that's why so many of these games are memorable. Everybody's going to remember this game, not because it was a no-hitter, but because of what happened. But I don't think that takes away from the fact of what Yamamoto did, what Jackson Holiday did, what, our pitchers tried to do and they didn't. But I think that just makes the story that much richer of like, wow, who saw any of that coming? Because I'm sure nobody had that on their bingo card at all.
I'm going to push back on the Sabre just for baseball can be scripted. Ask the Black Sox. It's
Okay,
just
so barring
not the
1919,
kind of script you want, but it can. But I get her point. What other points?
not and I'm going to push back on your pushback, not within the bounds of the actual rules though, when you're not cheating. So barring the Black Sox, barring the Astros, things like that, when we're talking about like legitimate baseball, you can't script it. That's why we have rules against that.
What other points did you have about the Orioles series?
Let's see. Sorry, I'm on two sides of notebooks right now. Um, let's see. We did see you were very displeased with the lack of bunting. We saw Ben Rortvedt bunt twice in that game on Saturday, and it helped the team.
Yeah,
So
because
were you happy?
I was happy because I think it was the absolute right call. He's not, I mean, first of all, he's up here out of necessity,
Hmm.
but he's clearly in Major League Baseball not because of his bat. He's there because of his glove and his ability to call a game. So if there's a guy who struggles at the plate, why not bunt? This is what I've been saying all along. It's like, let's, be smart, guys. And so when I saw him bunt, yeah, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I was like, thank you. He's doing something productive. He is doing something to help the team as opposed to going up there striking out or hitting into a double play.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was very happy for you in that
Thank
respect.
you. Appreciate that.
The other thing I did see arguments on, so up there with the Pajes thing was like, why didn't Yamamoto get to stay in and just throw the last out at that point too? I don't know if you saw a lot of that going back and forth, but
Yeah.
his pitch count was already at 112. And while some people were like, wow, he was already out there, like just let him do it. Again, this kind of goes to my stance on how I looked at Pajes. Like, I don't want him getting hurt, even for the sake of trying to oh God, man, words are just falling out of my head today. But just basically capture that no hitter. I don't want to see Yamamoto get hurt throwing a couple extra pitches when we need him down the stretch for the postseason. So we already saw him get hurt last year. We missed him in the middle part of the year. We've had him for the most part all year, and he's been our most consistent piece. I don't want him throwing a couple extra pitches to be the reason that we lose him.
Two things to that, Amy. One, as much as we try to, everyone does in Major League Baseball. I do believe you can't prevent injury. I know you try and do this by limiting the pitch counts and doing all these things. I totally understand why they do it, but you can do it all you want. I still believe you can't prevent injury. Um, I I think it's fair. I would have given him one more batter. I feel like he was owed at least one more batter because I don't know this, and maybe you do. I don't know how soon Blake Trinan got up to warm up. Was he already warming up before Halliday hit the home run? Because if that was the case, that made no sense to me because there were two outs. I mean, unless he was already warming up at the beginning of that inning.
I
Because if he
I don't
wasn't
remember if
warming
he
up,
was. I think it was a rush, and who knows if that's not what contributed to having
exactly.
a rough outing, is he wasn't warm yet.
That's part of the reason why I would have given him one more batter just to give Trinan more time to get ready. If that batter gets on base, then yeah, absolutely, you take him out of the game.
Mm.
So I do think that's a fair criticism. But even if you looked at Yamamoto's reaction, he knew that minute that ball that was gone, he knew he was coming out of the game. He knew. He turned around and he was waiting for Roberts to take him out of the game.
And that's for me, where like I don't want to see him in there, just because like I truly, I don't want him to throw more than he can. I know you're saying like he's going to get injured if he gets injured, but I want to kick that can down the road if saving him, because to me, especially when they do start to get tired, he hasn't pitched that much typically. I don't want to see him getting like the last batter that he faces that ends up being like a 9 pitch at bat. Like where they're struggling and I'm like, "Oh my god, he's already at 112, now we're at like 121, 120, like so for me, I felt like pulling him out was probably the better decision, but.
He will have a short leash on his start in Friday against the Gigantes.
Yeah.
Even if he's pitching well, he will have a short leash because he threw over 100 in his last outing. So again, I understand that this is how the Dodgers work. What else do you got on the Orioles series?
Let's see. Oh, we did see that on that Sunday game. So Shohei hit a leadoff home run. It was his 47th, but that was also his 12th leadoff home run, which now has him tied with Mookie Betts. Mookie had done that in 2023, and then we saw Shohei hit a second home run in the game, and that was his fourth multi-hit home run game of the season. So he was at 48 as of leaving that Orioles series, and then we saw Mookie Betts go back to back with him in the third inning and hit a home run of his own.
Yeah, give some Floridas out to Clayton Kershaw, man. I mean, Kershaw, again, the season that Kershaw is having, I know I've repeatedly on the last few episodes seemed to be reserving my Floridas for Kershaw, but Kershaw did something that he's basically done his whole career, and that is when the Dodgers lose, he goes out there, he's the stopper, he ends the losing streak, and again, and he just went
8
out there.
strikeouts.
Exactly. He just went out there and he put them in a position to win, and that's really all you ask. And the offense, it was just enough, to score. You wish, especially with the Orioles losing their starter again early in that game, you would think, hey, come on, offense. But what are you going to do? At least they salvaged. They didn't get swept, because if they went 0-6 on that road trip, Amie, I don't know. I know you're coming back home to face the Rockies, but 0-6.
Yeah, but the
And
Rockies,
then
that's not a guaranteed win at this point either. And they lost Tomoyuki Sagano on Sunday in the third inning. So he ended up taking a comebacker and like kind of kicked out his right foot. Like it looked like people weren't sure. Like, was he trying to stop it? Was it just reflex that he put his foot out? But it hit him. And so they took him out of the game early. They ended up having to go through another 5 pitchers to close out that game. But again, just another example of other teams not, it's not just our team.
and just to follow up to what you said, yeah, there is no absolute guarantees. I know the math is in the Dodgers' favor right now in terms of them making the postseason, but it's a 2-game lead over the Show Ponds. There is no guarantee that they are going to win the division. There's still some time left, so yeah,
And
I don't.
that's why we watch, because it isn't guaranteed. Like if it was a foregone conclusion, I'm not saying that there aren't people that would like to watch baseball that way, and that would be great. But that I think this is what makes it so exciting. Like, all the scoreboard watching at the end, the magic number, and it's not just what is our team doing, but what are other teams doing? Like, hey, thanks Cincinnati Reds, you beat the Padres last night, so we get an extra, half a game, and it's just that's the stuff that makes the last part of the season exciting. And I think that's where sometimes as Dodgers fans we lose some of that excitement, because in past years we've won by such a large margin. Like we're not even doing magic number counting anymore, because it is a foregone conclusion that we've got the division. So while it may be uncomfortable in some spaces, it is a part of baseball, and it is kind of nice to be, I don't know, just like it's you can't see the future.
Absolutely. What else do you got about the Orioles?
So in that Sunday game, did you notice that it was an all righty lineup facing Clayton Kershaw? The only left-hander that they had was Gunnar Henderson. So it was
Yeah.
just like, wow, way to stack that lineup.
Yeah, Major League Baseball has a book for managing that it seems a lot of teams use, and that is left-hander on the mound. We got to put all our righties in the lineup.
Yeah, it was all righties, one switch hitter, and then Gunnar Henderson. And then Robleski came in to pitch later, and he's been doing a pretty good job. They shared a story partway through his outing about they were like, did you notice he's rocking Skechers? And I guess they had asked him, like, did you get those from Clayton Kershaw, since Kershaw is sponsored by them? And he had said no, but he mentioned that he likes it because not many people wear that brand. They're comfortable, but he said even though they work, he had actually started wearing them when he started pitching better. And so being superstitious, he can't not wear them now. So it was just, he's like, but he wouldn't say no if they did want to sponsor him.
It's the Kershaw influence. I don't know if you saw, there was a picture going around when they got back to Los Angeles for the Rockies series early Monday morning, seen rolling around Manhattan Beach was Kershaw, Emmett Sheehan, and Jack Dreyer going to Starbucks. So it seems like those young
Aw.
pitchers are. I'm surprised Kershaw even lets them hang out with him. I think they're trying to just soak
Why?
up as
Why
much
are you shocked?
because Kershaw's a red ass. Like Kershaw's just like,
Well,
look,
but clearly he's not if he's doing this. This
well,
flies in the face of your
did you see the
theory.
picture? Did you see the
I
picture?
I did not. You'll have to send it to me.
Kershaw is walking
Is he
ahead
is
of
he walking and he's like, ugh.
no, he's walking ahead of them. So it's almost like they're just following him and being like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?" and stuff like that. But look, I think it's great that those young pitchers recognize they are around greatness and they're just like, I can learn a lot from this dude. So I'm literally gonna follow him, stalk him,
Wouldn't
whatever
you
his
wouldn't
routine
you do
is.
that too? Like, and I mean, he's had the benefit of Sandy Koufax. Like, all of
Yeah.
these players take advantage where they will, and I don't mean take advantage in a bad way, but like that is the legacy of the game. Like, this is you learn from all of this stuff, and that is the brotherhood of the game, which I think
I
is
think
really
it's the
cool.
smart thing to do. I mean, I would
Okay,
definitely do the same thing that those
I
guys
th-
do.
I think it can be for many reasons, but I that's cute. I like that. I like that a lot. Even if you think he's a red ass and whatever. But yeah.
What else do you got on the Orioles?
I think that's pretty much it. Just, they won a game and they won it right after that the disappointing end, which is what you would want to see. Like, all right,
Yeah.
let's channel some of that energy and let's come back and do something with it. And like you said, they've got Kirsch to help kind of bolster that and they got him some runs, which they were talking about it on the broadcast. They got some runs early. So Shohei got that run in the first inning. You got two more home runs in the third, which having Kershaw not give up the runs initially too. Like, if he can get past that first inning, then it's kind of a little bit more smooth sailing because that's what got him into trouble the last time. And again, that's the nature of the game. It's going to happen. You can't, you know, you can't script this stuff.
No, absolutely not. So the Dodgers come back home to Los Angeles for a very, very short homestand, a 3-game homestand against the Rockies of Colorado. And so through the first 2 games, they've done what they're supposed to do, and they've actually extended their lead over the show pods. They are now going into the final game of this 3-game set on Wednesday at the time we are recording this. The Dodgers are up 2 games, and I know these last 2 games, they've looked more like a complete team.
You're
It
welcome.
it seems
I
like
was at I was at both of those games. No, just kidding.
the starting rotation again. We had another no hit watch on Monday with Tyler Glass now. And Amie, I have to say, I knew once I saw Tyler Glasnow's pitch count at what it was that he wasn't going to make it. I knew they were going to pull him. And
Especially because he had just missed his last start with back tightness. Like, you can't risk it.
so I totally understand that move because it was also the 7th inning. It wasn't the 9th inning. It was this. There were still 2 more innings to go. And what I found really interesting about that game was the minute they took Glasnow out, it's like I think it's very rare to throw a no hitter. I think it's even more rare to throw a combined no hitter.
Well, they
So that,
haven't done it since that Mexico game.
but I'm talking about baseball in general, all
Oh,
over
yes.
MLB. And so I will say this that when they took Glasnow out, I had already kind of given up the hopes that there would be a no hitter because of the
Did
fact.
you?
Yeah, because I was like, there's going to be 2 more pitchers that are going to be brought in. And you know my theory. The
I know.
more people get involved, the less I mean, you're asking everybody to be perfect, and just the odds are that's just not going to happen.
So no hope even? Like, you're not even just gonna like, I'm
Well,
gonna I'm gonna suspend disbelief and just hope.
I did get the hope after Blake Trinan got through the 8th. When he got through the 8th, I thought, oh, they might do it. And then when I saw that he brought in Tanner Scott, my initial reaction, Amie, was this. Why are they torturing this poor guy? Because I knew he was going to give up a hit. I knew he was going to give up a
I
hit.
I felt like, me, I'm usually like go with the flow, like whatever's happening's happening. And I was driving home at that point, and when I heard them put Tanner Scott in, I immediately just felt so bad for him. Like, it was just, Like I really hope, like kind of having the hope that I just asked you to have, like I really hope, like this is what I want to see. This is Tanner, this is how you prove everybody wrong, like have a good inning. But it also felt like that's really not fair to him at all. But I don't
And,
run this team, so we're along for the ride just like he is. We're all hoping to see what, what he has in the tank.
and you know what the crazy thing is, Amie? He did have a good inning. That first hit that he gave up was not a good pitch. It was completely out of the strike zone. You have to tip your hat to Ritter of the Rockies for hitting that ball and getting and keeping it fair, first of all. Uh, but other than that, after that, he got the next three hitters out. So after he gave up that double at first, I thought, all right, just don't lose the game. I'm perfectly fine with losing the no hitter because I had already made up my mind
I'm
they
glad you
weren't going to
had
get
your
the no hitter
lowered expectations.
and lowered expectations.
Expectations.
But I was just like, please just don't lose the game just for your mental health. Because I knew, I mean, immediately the fans started booing. Were you there still or had you left at that
No,
point?
I had left because I had an early morning the next day, and I had been at both games.
Would you have been okay with leaving a no hitter if it was a no hitter? Would you have been pissed the
Honestly,
next day?
so when I left that game, because I was there with friends and we were like watching, I was keeping score, but also like chatting and catching up. So when I left, I actually didn't even realize it was a no hitter, just because I hadn't seen that friend in a while. Had I realized, I probably wouldn't have left. Um, but honestly, even being there for 7 innings of it, I might have, just because I like these next 2 weeks are crazy, and I'm just trying to stay afloat at this point. So I would have been happy having been there for the majority of it.
And before everyone starts losing their mind, Amie always leaves the games early. So
On weekdays,
this is
just
not just a one-off. She always leaves the games early.
and
So
and that's because I go to so many of them. I have a day job, I cover baseball. So more often than not, I'm working 7 days a week. And we do this podcast. I am barely staying afloat this season. Like I am mostly not okay, but we're here and we're doing it. So I don't, if you have comments, if you have feelings about it, normally I would say, send me your comments. Keep them to yourself because I don't care.
like I said, for me, the worst thing would have been if he came in and blew the game and they lost the game. So I understand why Roberts brought him out there because again,
Trying
people,
to save him and give him some kind of like repetition, salvage it, but
you need these guys to try to figure it out. And the only way they're going to figure it out is if they keep going out there. And I know that some of you are like, well, yeah, but you can't put them in a position where it ends up costing you the game. And that's the fine line that Dave Roberts is going to have to walk. But if you're going to win the World Series, you need Tanner Scott to figure it out because if you saw last year, it took everyone in that bullpen to win the World Series. It's going to take everyone in the bullpen to win the World Series this year, and you can't have guys in the bullpen that you're trying to avoid.
and he needs his head right. And I understand where Dave Roberts is coming from and doing that, but like you said, I had that little twinge of like, oh man, like don't do this to him. Like maybe give him a little break. But it's that thing of like when you fall off your bike, when you fall off your horse, like you got to get right back on. Otherwise, you have too long to think about it, and then now you're on the other side of it, overthinking it in a different way. So
They say that closers need to have very short memories. So I get it. Throw him
yeah.
back out there, but I mean Tyler Glass now looked great, especially the way that game started. It was
Mhm.
funny because everybody was making such a big deal about how it didn't seem like Tyler Glass now. And how do you pronounce it? Do we know officially? Is that how you pronounce his last name? Rovert?
Glasnow?
No,
Oh, I say Rortvet. I don't know.
Rorvet. That's the correct way.
That's how I'm pronouncing it.
Okay,
How
so
would you like to pronounce it?
I don't know. That's why I'm genuinely asking. So that's why in the beginning of that game, it didn't look like they were on the same page. Glasnow was making a lot of pitches. So for it to result in 7 innings of no hit ball, that's just kind of, again, you have to tip your hat to Ben and just be like, bro, I don't know what you're doing with this pitching staff, but keep it up because I know Will Smith caught the next game, but in game two, when you saw Emmett Sheehan be perfect through 5 innings, I'm like, what is gotten into the Dodgers
I was
starting
like,
pitchers?
what is in their water right now? Because I
Yeah.
would like some. And I thought the cool thing, so not just that Tyler Glasnow kind of like settled in and then pitched for 7 innings. He had 11 strikeouts, but I thought what was unique about the like the bid into the no hitter was they did score a run, but it was on a walk. So technically it didn't count, which like that's the stuff where like if you weren't watching the game or you saw a scorecard and afterwards you're like, well, wait, how is it a no hitter? Like they got a hit, but that hit came in the ninth inning. How did they score a run? And it's like those are the little like behind the scenes like baseball things that I just nerd out about.
You mean manufacturing runs,
Yeah,
moving runners over, stealing
yeah.
bases,
Well,
old
it. I
fashioned
mean
baseball?
that it and it was on a walk. So he walked Jordan Beck. The Ezekiel Tovar flew out, and then you had Warming Bernabel come in and well, actually no, Kyle Farmer because Bernabel ended up getting injured, but Kyle Farmer hit a sac fly and then brought that walk in, and which is what we hear the broadcasters say all the time is like the walks are going to kill you, and luckily it didn't count against the no hitter, but it just to me it just the nerdy scoring part makes it interesting.
You forgot the stolen base. The stolen base was crucial in
Yes,
that run
his
scoring.
16th stolen base to be
Right.
exact.
And that's why I get that the stolen base no longer has the same value that it had in the past, but manufacturing runs, ladies and gentlemen, you can score a run without a hit. It is very fascinating, but
Please sign up for Juan's class, Manufacturing Runs 101. He'll be teaching it next week. No, I'm just kidding.
how about Mookie Betts in the little stretch again? I don't know if you saw the post game interview with Kirsten the other day when she was like, oh no, she said it to Teoscar. But when they were interviewing Mookie, and there's like, all right, and I love how Mookie has been completely aware of how his season has gone. He's not going to get too high. He's not going to get too low. He's going to enjoy this little stretch. But that's 3 games in a row where he drove in 2 runs a game. So hopefully he's figured it out and he's going to go on one right now.
Well, he's having
Because
fun. He's not in his head. He's not listening to all of the head trash, but also the people just constantly digging into him.
I honestly, Amy, and I think it'll probably come out in the off season, but I've been thinking a lot lately, and I feel, for
Did it
those of
hurt?
you, yeah, it did. For those of you who aren't aware, Mookie lost I don't know if it was his stepdad or I think he referred to him as his stepdad. And
Yeah.
he missed a game when he went to Boston to attend the funeral. I really wonder if his stepdad had been sick the whole season. I don't know what Mookie's relationship was with him, but maybe if he was close to him and he knew that his stepdad was suffering this whole time, if that really weighed on him during the season and contributed to his performance, and now a weight maybe has been lifted because he's no longer. I don't know. It's
I- but
spirit.
this is where like I mean, I'm not going to say, of course, it played a factor. He's human. Like things like that are going to impact him. Like I just said a moment ago, like I'm barely surviving this year. Part of that, without getting too much into my stuff, is like I have had some, as you know, I've had some losses this year, and dealing with that, dealing with different things in family. And the thing that I think we forget is these guys, like Mookie's situation, a lot of us, if we're fortunate, we only have to work a 5-day work week. Not everybody has that. Some people work 2 jobs, whatever the situation. These guys work multiple days every day with very few days off. They still have to perform. And that's the thing I feel like people forget is that like they're doing their best, but like you still have to play and live and act as if. And I know I don't feel like myself this year, but I still hop on this show and try to be fun and positive and talk to you about stuff. even though we turn off the, the recording, and it's like I still have to go back to my life. I've got to process this other stuff. I've got to show up at work and still do a good job. Go do that at my other job. We all do this though. Like, I'm not special, Mookie's not special. My point is, I feel like we should just remember this though. Like, we're all human and we're all dealing with stuff all the time, and that is going to impact our lives in some way. Even when we're trying to have it not, there's no way that it can't not bleed in.
Yeah, you mentioned something that when you said to Mookie, like he's having fun again. In game two of this Rockies series, Teoscar Hernandez hit 2 home runs. And I know Hershiser had made the comment on the call saying, there's that smile that we haven't seen lately. So you're hoping that maybe Teoscar Hernandez, like Mookie, maybe is finding something because they need those guys to be like top performers like they were last year. So
Mhm.
hopefully it's encouraging. I know when I say stuff like that, people will tell me they're like, "Yeah, Juan, but it's the Rockies," and I'm like, "I get it, it's the Rockies, guys, but they weren't doing it against the last place Piratas. They weren't doing it against the Angelitos. So maybe it's because we're getting closer. The stress of the pennant chase is making them focus more. Who
But
knows what it is?"
you've also got pieces coming back. We just got Will Smith back. We just got Max Muncy. These are pivotal pieces to the lineup. Having Teoscar making contact, Mookie, like that's 4 players right there. Where if they're hitting, that makes a big difference. You've got Freddie kind of hit or miss, like kind of coming in and out. Same thing with Shohei Ohtani. But when these guys are all firing on all cylinders together, like they're unstoppable. But we haven't had that. So as we're seeing that kind of pick up, like we are seeing a better result. We are seeing them win, but that's hasn't been the case consistently through the season because all of these guys have been missing from the lineup at different intervals, or they're playing injured, and that is impacting their play. But we're also seeing like little superheroes. Like you see Miguel Rojas come in, and while we are missing the Max Muncies and the Will Smiths, you see Miguel kind of stepping up, and where sometimes he may not make the hits, or maybe may not make the plays to everybody's satisfaction. He's been stepping up these last couple of games. Even I think it was yesterday's game, he made an amazing play. Like he was playing second base, but he went in at shortstop and caught the ball, and while still running, threw it over to Freddie to get a double play out. And it was just like, dang, like that was a beautiful play. Same thing with like one of the balls got hit over to like right by the Rockies dugout, and you didn't know if it was catchable or not. And of course, Freddie still goes over there, trots over, and makes this catch. Like, you hope he doesn't get injured, but it was also like, oh, thank goodness, because every out counts right now.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, obviously, you want them to finish off the series, sweep the Rockies. I think the real test is going to be how they look in San Francisco this weekend, especially since the reinforcements have come back. You have the starting pitching the way it is, and you're facing a team that is hot right now in on one. So how they perform against that team, because look, if they find a way to win that Yamamoto game, they end up all of a sudden they've won 4 of their last 5, and they're trending in the right direction. Things are going to get very interesting here in these last couple of weeks of the season, because don't look now, guys. The Metropolitans are going through it, and they're now only 2 games in the last wild card spot ahead of the Gigantes. So these 7 games that the Dodgers have against the Gigantes in these next couple of weeks, these are going to be huge games because, again, more importantly, the Gigantes are fighting for a playoff spot. But secondly, they would love to play spoiler to the
Mm-hmm.
Doyers.
Oh, of
So
course.
the Dodgers need to have, they better have the Gigantes' attention. They need to be focused because this is going to be really interesting because the Show Pots play the Metropolitans in this next 2 week stretch too. So there may be a period where all of a sudden the Metropolitans are on the outside looking in. You have the Gigantes in the wild card. There is a possibility where the Dodgers, if the Dodgers end up winning the division, their first round matchup in the wild card round could be against the Gigantes. So these next 7 games might not be the last time we see the Gigantes this year. And we saw how great the playoff series was the last time the only time the Dodgers and the Gigantes faced each other.
Well, and that's what makes good baseball. Like you want to win, but you also don't want it really handed to you. I'm not saying that we want to go in by the skin of our teeth, but like this is kind of what we live for, especially towards the end of the season. So I think no matter how it shakes out, it's gonna make for exciting baseball. I don't know how we're gonna get through this next week because I think I'm going to be at a majority of those games. I may miss one game next week, but I may be at all of them. So we'll see how the podcast shakes out next week because I don't think I can record from the stadium, but
So
yeah.
just know if there is no show next week, ladies and gentlemen, it's for a good cause.
The only reason we will not have a show is if because I have obviously my season ticket, but I will be at every single game. I may be working at 3 of them, and then I'll be attending the other 4. So otherwise, if I skip one, then we'll have our show next week. But
there we have. Do you have anything else on the Rockies series?
no, I hope they do well tonight. Is Shohei pitching tonight? I haven't honestly. I ran
believe
from
it's
work
Blake
to
Snell. It's Blake Snell.
It is Blake
tonight.
Snell tonight. Yes. So hopefully once we finish this show and get it posted, it should get posted right before the game starts. So hopefully there's a good result by the time you guys are all listening to this.
That's right. Blake Snell is going to be on the bump. So
against Freeland. So and not our Alex Freeland.
So I know you wanted to say something. I know we briefly mentioned it earlier, but the Cal Ripken celebration in Baltimore, Amie.
Well, you sent me the story. So was there something like I read the article? You lived through him playing before because I wasn't really as much involved in baseball at that point. So I mean, I have some points, but did you have things that you wanted to?
I did. I mean, Cal Ripken was one of my favorite players when I was a kid. When I was a kid, the players I really admired, there were the players that I admired on the Dodgers. There was Valenzuela, there was Pedro Guerrero, there was Mike Piazza.
And Oral Hershiser.
And when I was a kid, I watched all of Major League Baseball. I wasn't so focused just on the Dodgers. So I could appreciate players like Tony Gwynn and Kirby Puckett was another player that I really loved. Ricky Henderson was another player that I really loved as a kid. But Cal Ripken,
all the names that us who may not have been as involved at that time in our life, like you say all those names, I've heard those names. I may not know all of the stories behind them, but those are all pivotal players.
But Cal Ripken was one of my favorites. I loved Cal Ripken. And so when he broke that record, I was with my compadre. We went to specifically watch that game because it was on ESPN, and we went to Lamppost Pizza to watch Cal Ripken break the record. And that is a record that, in my opinion, will never be broken. It goes up there with, I think, a lot of records. I think the all-time wins um, record will never be broken. I mean, we don't even have anybody who has 400 wins, let alone Cy Young's record of over 500 wins. Is just I don't think that's going to be touched. I also feel kind of Nolan Ryan's strikeout record won't be touched, only just because with the number of injuries with pitchers and the way they limit innings with pitchers, I don't know that anyone is going to pitch long enough to be able to match what Nolan Ryan did. So I think
the Clayton Kershaws and the Max Scherzers are more the unicorns of pitching in this day and age. Like you don't see everybody going like 18,
But
season.
I think there's something special about this record with Cal Ripken, just because I get it, he's a Hall of Famer. But he wasn't like the superstar of all superstars. He was a guy who showed up every day to go to work, kind of like Federico Freeman, expected to be in the lineup, and he started the trend of the big shortstop, of the usually your shortstop was a small guy who was quick and he was just a good defender. Cal Ripken was a guy who could hit, he had power, he was over 6 feet, and he was an underappreciated defensive shortstop. I think what made Cal Ripken a very good defensive shortstop was his attention to detail and the way he positioned himself. He positioned himself in a place where he could get to balls that normally he would not get to because he didn't have the same level of speed, quickness, or agility. So for me, I do find it very inspiring to see a record of just showing up every day and doing your job, and just that, to me, it's the definition of what a professional should be.
And there's an episode because he did break Lou Gehrig's record, which was the 2,130 consecutive games, and Lou Gehrig held that record for 56 years. I actually heard an episode of the podcast Midnight Library of Baseball. I think it's actually the first ever episode where they're talking about Lou Gehrig, and not just did he have ALS, did he not? Was it really more of like a CTE issue? But they were talking about a lot of those consecutive games, and is it healthy to do that? Like, there were just a lot of questions raised in that, but just to see the, like, as the record was being broken, the article that you sent me, I thought was really heartwarming. Like, Ripken mentioned that he's an introvert, and I immediately was like, one of my people, because I'm introverted. Like, I just want to show up, do my stuff, and like get out. And the fact that like play was stopped in that game for 22 minutes, and like he had all his curtain calls, and then I think he was saying, was it Bobby Bonilla pushed him out of the dugout,
and Rafael Palmeiro, the two of them pushed him.
and made him do a jog around the warning track. And initially he was like, oh, I don't want to do this, like internally, but like as he did it, he's like high-fiving people in the stands. He jumped up and like high-fived some more people in the back, made his way around. And I just like that he acknowledged, like, you know what, I didn't want to do it, they pushed me out, but it was one of the best human moments that he ever had on the field. And that he started recognizing all these people in the stands that he had seen on a regular basis. And it was just like, that's what I love about this game. Like the fact that the umpires were okay with the 22-minute stoppage, like the players are okay with this, because this is a huge moment. And like you said, it may not happen again. And on top of it, he's like, I'm used to seeing the people in the dugout, the people in the field, but being able to connect with the fans in such a, like, an intimate way, like, just how cool is that? Like, I don't know. I read the story, and as somebody who wasn't involved with baseball at that time, it was just nice to see it kind of from the outside and appreciate what you guys all were witnessing in real time.
I just think, first of all, in a day and age where it costs a lot of money to go in a game, a day and age where people want to go specifically. I mean, how many people want to go see Shohei, want to go see the Ohtani? How disappointed would they be? They spend a lot of money and they go and Shohei doesn't play. You didn't have to worry about that with Cal Ripken. If you wanted to see Cal Ripken play, you knew that if you went to that game, you were going to see Cal Ripken out there on the field. So I do appreciate that. I also do appreciate how absolutely insane, and I think luck has to factor a lot in him breaking this record. And that is, as a shortstop, an instrumental role on the field where he's involved in a lot of plays.
Look how many times Corey Seager was injured.
Exactly. Where you could very easily twist your ankle, get taken out at second base. There's so many ways that you could get hurt. And I'm sure he did get hurt, and he played through injuries. It's just.
And that was kind of the basis for that podcast of like, how healthy is it where you're like playing through injuries to make the record, and but it was a different time.
Yeah, and I do think what does suck for me, and this is me being super picky, is the record ended just with him taking a day off, and I almost felt like the record was always going to end because of injury. Either injury or he was going to retire.
I like that he went out on his own terms, though. Like, good for him. Like, I'd rather it be that way than you're bummed because he got injured. Like, he decided when he was done.
It just seemed anticlimactic to me to be
really?
like, oh.
See, I'd rather it that way. I'd be bummed if he got hurt and broke it.
It just was like, well, why this day? Why randomly? Why pick this number? And there might be a significance to it, and then I don't know.
As my best friend would say, why not?
Yeah. But I get that that record may not be as sexy as the home run record or some other records in Major League Baseball. But there is just, I think it's the memory of me and my compadre at Lamppost watching him break that, but the significance of just, I feel like an everyday guy just going out there and getting to play baseball every day, going out there trying his hardest, and to show fans an appreciation where you want to come see me play, I will be here to play.
Well, and
So
that's kind of what I love about this game is we are all a collection. Like we are all our own weird little photo albums of our collection of the games that mean something to us. Like that's one. Like you just shared your memory with us, but that's like something that you collected. Like for me, it will be, even though we didn't win that no hitter, like I will always have the memory like I was sitting on the field watching it with all these people. Like that to me, that makes a really cool memory. I was just the Sabre official scoring research committee just reconvened, and I am in scorecard heaven with all these like fellow people that understand scorekeeping and love like all the nuances of it. But we were just talking about that game on Saturday, the almost no hitter, and somebody is actually an Orioles fan on the other side, and they were stoked because they won that game. And it's just like these different perspectives of how we all look at the game. For them, it was Cal Ripken Day, and they won it on the heels of a potential no hitter. And it's like, God, I just like there's just so many facets of this game that make it interesting.
yeah. Anything else on Cal Ripken before we wrap things
Are
up?
we are we about to go to the anti-Ripken?
We're gonna go to the anti-Ripken to end the show because why not? Why not? So
Yeah, go for it. Set it up, partner.
the video that went viral this past weekend about the Phillies Karen, as she was
I feel bad for
baptized.
all the Karens who actually have that name and are lovely.
So, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there was a woman in Miami at the Phillies Marlins game. She was a Phillies fan. She was in Phillies gear. She and some Phillies fan went after a home run ball. And for me, I don't know, you may have seen it different, Amie. It seemed like the guy, it was the ball was up for grabs. I didn't see him take the ball from her. It was like he went into the pile and he's the one that came out with it, and he gave the ball to his son. And then Philly's Karen came after him and was like,
She put
"You
her
took the
hands
ball."
on him, and that to me, aside from the whole situation, you don't put your hands on anybody. Consent goes both ways.
Proclaiming that he took the ball from her and that should have been her ball. And so he ended up giving her the ball. And I think what was so great is,
Giving it to her though to stave off a potential like worse confrontation because she was in his face.
yes. So then after that, immediately, hats off to the Miami Marlins for giving a care package to the kid, recognizing, hey, something really wasn't right what went down here, so we want to make it right. Not only that, hats off to the Phillies for inviting the kid and the family to meet Harrison Bader, who had hit the home run. Harrison Bader giving him a bat, so that kid really
And it was
scored.
almost his birthday. So like they salvaged what could have been a really messed up memory right before his birthday as they're celebrating at this game. And it's like, all right, it didn't start out so great, but at least it kind of turned around.
So, are we being too hard on Philly's Karen, Amie?
So you
Because
know
she is
me.
getting destroyed on social media, and to
I
the point where they wrongfully identified some other woman as
Oh
Philly's
no.
Karen. That I'm not a fan of. And I don't know if they have identified who this woman is, but that
See,
is,
I don't believe in doxing. Like we don't need to go after like did she make a mistake? Yes. Was it not great? Yes. But like I just doxing people to what extent? So initially, because I try to look at stuff from both sides. I don't want to assign blame initially. I want to understand what happened because I wasn't there. Um I when I first saw it, I was like, wow, he kind of ran a long way. Like it was in her section. But then, as we see, like unwritten rules, it's whoever's ball until it's in your hand. Now, some people did say that he grabbed it out of her glove, but again, we don't know if that was the case. And again, if you're like kind of dogpiling, even if there isn't as many fans there, like these are the dangers that you run. I don't know what happened. I just know after the fact, she didn't have the ball. It was an interesting tact to go up to somebody and put your hands on them. And for as much as I want to champion women in this game, I was very chagrined that I was like, oh, she literally put hands on this man. Like, this is what we're fighting against. Like, you're not doing any of us any favors, because you don't touch someone. Man on woman, man on man, woman on man. Like, you just don't do that. And so, like, at that point, he takes the ball from his son to give to her to de-escalate the situation. But it's like, you wanted the ball that bad that you took it from a kid. I don't agree with how it happened. It's not a good lesson in sportsmanship. Uh-oh, Juan's getting kicked out of his studio.
Yeah, my apologies. So I will need to wrap things up here. I'm sorry that I cut you off in mid sentence. Amie, do you want to just finish what you were saying there? I'm gonna need to bounce, and
Well, we'll go ahead and call it. Let us know what your thoughts are on this situation, and we'll catch up with you guys maybe next week, maybe the week after.
this is going to be a very abrupt ending. So sorry, guys. I'm not going to do the traditional
Yeah.
closing.
Find us on social media: X at BB Shangri LA, IG, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri LA. Juan Ramirez, I'm Amie Cuevas, and ending however you want to do it, Juan, before you kick us out.